welcome back to my channel. So yeah, today I decided that I talk about how the healthcare system works here in the Philippines, because I think one thing that I can contribute to education, because we have a subject in nursing you call community health nursing. Basically, this is the part in nursing school wherein the healthcare system here in the Philippines is taught. And yeah, I think it's about time that I share the knowledge that I have regarding this topic. So I think this can be part of, the role of a nurse as a teacher. So I hope that after this video, you guys can be able to reflect and think about how the healthcare system works in the Philippines. Is it right? Do we have to, change some things? Or are there things that shouldn't have happened but have happened already? Things like that. So after this video, I hope that I can be able to answer 3 questions. The first one will be, how important is voting for the right candidate? And number 2 is that, who are the leaders when it comes to healthcare? And the third one will be, why do healthcare workers deserve hazard pay? So without further ado, let's start with question number 1. So, how important is voting for the right candidates? So, if you guys don't grasp the gravity of the work of a politician by now, I could mention a few of their powers, duties, and functions. But I would focus more on the local government units, because you all see it on Twitter, guys, right? Wherein like LGUs compare the measures they are taking. They compare like, ako taga Pasig ako, they do this and that. Well, if you're from Makati, they implement other strategies. And then when you're from Mindanao, like example Davao, they do different activities again. And then in Zamboanga and things like that, they are all local government units. So the Philippines has a lot of local government units, and I'm gonna explain later on the role of these local government units in the delivery of healthcare. But I first would like to discuss, about choosing the right candidates for that position. So going back, since we're gonna talk about the local government units, I'm gonna mention the duties of a governor or a mayor, because they're the leaders in local government units. Included in their job is that they exercise general supervision and control over all programs. Again, all programs, projects, activities, and services of the local government units. So it won't be foreign, I guess, when I say that some people brag about their local government units. Like for example, before, in 2015, wherein Davao was really applauded for their healthcare delivery system. So these things really depend on the local government units. So I'm gonna explain later on, but again, as I mentioned earlier, all programs, projects, services, activities, they are all controlled over by these politicians. Okay, so that's just one of the important duties that they do. And the second one is that they appoint all officials and employees. And next is that they also determine the time and the manner that you will be paid as a government worker. And they also, of course, issue executive orders for enforcement of laws and execution of laws and ordinance. Because recently we have the enhanced community quarantine. These instructions are usually ordered by the governor for the provincial level and the mayor for municipal or city level for us to follow, and for the lower levels or the barangay levels to enforce. And moreover, they also adopt measures to safeguard and conserve land, mineral, marine, forest, and other resources. So they also can have power over the control of these, our natural resources. And also, since, typhoons and other calamities is not foreign to us here in the Philippines, the LGU is also responsible for carrying out emergency measures as may be necessary during and after disasters, may it be man-made or natural. So the preparedness of a certain LGU is also up to them. The mitigation, and there are a lot of phases in disaster disaster management. So yeah, that's basically, I think, everything that should be stressed out when it comes to the work of a local government official. I just actually extracted them from the local government code, which is RA 7160. There are still a lot of functions written in there, and you guys can read it. It is accessible on the internet for free, although it's a very long law. But you know, we have a lot of time right now. Please do read it so that you can become more knowledgeable of how the society works in the local government level, in the provincial, municipal, city, barangay level. It's all laid out in there, you know. You just have to find the time to read it and understand it, and of course later on use it to, you know, defend your rights or other people's rights, or if there is anything that you need to criticize or applaud the government about, you can use that as reference. So yeah, you know, lifelong learning, you guys. It's never too late to read about things that you haven't really understood before. I think it is really important that you know the laws that govern the society. And yeah, so with all this information I presented you, have you already reflected and realized how choosing the right candidate for a certain position is really important? Because, you know, it's everything, you know, all the projects, services, and activities of the LGU, they get to decide that, and also the management of our natural resources and a lot of things, you guys. So I've gotta ask you, is 500 pesos or like 1,000 or let's say 2,000, which is just like a price of an antibiotic, by the way. So yeah, is it enough to buy your trust and for them to have the power to manage the taxpayers' money and also our natural resources, and also for them to decide the availability of certain services in your area? Well, you might also ask me, why do I need to explain all of this before I eventually get into the explanation of how the healthcare system works? It's because I just believe that the more aware and educated people are about how the world works or how the society works, how the taxpayers' money is being used, or about how important the decision they are really making, the more they get to weigh and compare the choices that they have in front of them, the more they think about it and thus make better and wiser decisions. So please, please, please register and vote wisely. You know, the future of the Philippines, your province, your city or municipality, your barangay, your family is in your hands, you know? So it's better that you really think about who to vote, who to give this responsibility to, and that if you really trust them enough to handle not only your money but also other people, thousands of people's money. But anyways, let's go to the second question. So the second question is, who are the leaders when it comes to healthcare? So I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of history before I finally explain that one. In 1991, RA 7160, or the Local Government Code, or the Devolution Act, was introduced for the local government units to enable them to attain their fullest development as self-reliant communities and make them more effective partners in the attainment of national goals. So basically, for short, it transferred control and responsibility of delivering basic services to the hands of the local government units. So as we all know, if you already took up leadership and management in nursing school or any other course, it is what we call decentralization. So you give more power to the other members of your organization, to the lower members. Its purpose was to make the locals more self-reliant, so meaning they don't need to wait for whatever was implemented in the national government, because they already have the power to decide and to implement things that would effectively help the people in their province or municipality or city or barangay. And of course, it was not intended to, you know, to promote some political like self-aggrandizement, which is like somewhat prevalent nowadays. But originally, the local government code was implemented to enable our leaders to serve their constituents in a more effective and timely manner. So different levels in the local government units were allowed to exercise some power and functions vested upon them, which ranges from the barangay level, the municipal level, then the city level, and then the provincial level. So included in these powers and functions vested upon them is to provide health services, which before the advent of the local government code was a function of the national government through the Department of Health. So all healthcare services implemented in the whole Philippines was decided by the Department of Health. But because of the RA 7160, wherein they decentralized the power to the governor, to the mayor, so yeah, they get to decide what services will be available in your area. So the implementation of programs on primary health care, maternal and child care, and communicable and non-communicable disease control services, then access to secondary and tertiary health services, which I'm gonna explain later on, and then also the purchase of medicines, medical supplies, equipment that were, decided upon by the politicians. So now let's talk about the local health boards, which plays a vital role in local healthcare. So if on the national level, we have the Department of Health headed by the Health Secretary as the health policy making entity of the government, in the local level, however, we have the local health boards. But before, there was no local health boards. It was just DOH. But since there was RA 7160, there's now the local health boards. So, sino ba tong local health boards nito? Since I've mentioned earlier that we have like 4 levels, so for the provincial level, we have what we call the Provincial Health Board, which is headed by, of course, the governor. And then, next to him is a provincial health officer who is usually a doctor. So the provincial health officer acts as the vice chair or the number 2 man. And of course, after the provincial health officer, we also have the members, which are the chairman of the Committee on the Health of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, a representative from the private sector or NGO involved in healthcare services, and a representative of the Department of Health in the province. So they are the members. And also, since we have the Provincial Health Board, we also have the Municipal Health Board or City Health Board, depending on city ba siya or a municipality. However, instead of the governor as the head of the local health board, it is now the mayor. And then the second one is the MHO, who is usually a doctor, and then of course the members again. So yeah, they are the leaders when it comes to healthcare. So since I've mentioned earlier that there is like secondary, tertiary levels of healthcare, I'm just gonna give you an overview about how the different levels of health facilities operate. So as we all know, we have a lot of levels in healthcare system. So there is a primary, secondary, then tertiary. And we have what we call the two-way referral system, which actually involves a close coordination between facilities of different local government units and the national government, which usually runs the tertiary level. So usually the primary and secondary level is under the local government units, and then the tertiary, it's already under the Department of Health. So why do we need this referral system? It's because, we have a lot of diseases or cases that we can see in our society. And the most common to the most life-threatening cases requires different levels of healthcare workers and healthcare facility. If you have, example, diarrhea, you won't need to go to a secondary level because that can be easily managed in the primary level, which is the healthcare center. But if like a person is suffering from a heart attack, of course you just don't go to a health center. You need to go to a higher center because supposedly health equipment are available in the secondary level, and then some healthcare workers are more trained in handling such cases. So yeah, for short, some cases or conditions can be easily managed in a health center or rural health unit or RHU, while other conditions might need to be referred referred to a higher center like a district hospital, a provincial hospital. That is why important talaga yung referral system, which I think is really implemented naman. It's just that sometimes the availability of equipment and resources in different hospitals under different local government units can be really seen, you know. Example, if you live in a different LGU, they may prioritize, you know, healthcare more than the other LGUs. So yeah, that is one of the cons of this RA 7160 for me, because before it was DOH, so whatever was implemented kunyari in Luzon is also implemented in Visayas and then in Mindanao, because that's the mandate of the national government. National meaning the whole Philippines. Otherwise, if it's the local government unit, it differs per province. You know, there's no uniformity in the delivery of healthcare in the whole Philippines because we have different leaders. So yeah, I think I'm talking too much, but yeah, let's go back to the referral system. Yeah, so the primary level includes the rural health units, health centers, and the barangay health stations, which is usually under the municipal health board or city health board. And then when you go to the secondary level, you have the district hospital, provincial hospital, which is usually under, you know, the provincial health board headed by the governor. And then also in the tertiary level, which is already headed by the Department of Health, we have regional hospitals, specialty hospitals like NKTI, heart centers, and you know, the big hospitals. And I won't really go in depth, guys. I'm so sorry about what services are specifically given like in the primary, secondary, and tertiary, because it took us a whole year of studying what are the services given, what are the nursing services, I mean, given in those different levels. But it's not just nursing services. We also have, you know, the roles of the doctors, the midwives, the dentists, the med techs, you know, it's a lot. I just wanted to let you guys know that there are different services per level, who are the leaders in like the different levels, and so on and so forth. And for the last question, finally, is why do healthcare workers deserve hazard pay? Okay, now, so I'm finally done explaining the healthcare system. I'm now gonna talk about the people involved in the delivery of these services that you actually see and talk to when you go to healthcare centers, to hospitals, and to barangay health stations. So this law, which is RA 7305, which is the Magna Carta for Public Health Workers, is specifically made for them, for their protection and for their privileges and rights that they should receive from the government, which sadly not implemented in all local government units. But anyways, as we all know, there is a pandemic currently happening. A pandemic meaning worldwide. Epidemic meaning there's an increase in the number of cases in a certain place, which normally isn't like really that high. When you say endemic, meaning, you know, the disease or the condition is usually, you know, found in a certain place. Like for example, in Samar, schistosomiasis is common here, so meaning it is already endemic in our place. And also when you say sporadic, meaning it only occurs in a small number of people and it is not always there. It disappears and then it goes back again, but it doesn't really affect that much people compared when you have an epidemic. Okay, I guess I've explained it quite alright, I guess. But yeah, going back, as we all know, we have a pandemic currently happening, and our healthcare workers are crucial, important, vital in the management of this crisis. They are working and taking shifts all day and then at night, and they can't get the luxury of just staying at home or working from home during this season. They are the ones bravely handling these patients with different conditions or infected with microorganisms that can't be seen with the naked eye. Anyways, the recent scarcity and unavailability of PPEs or personal protective equipment and also disinfectants in most hospitals further increases the risk that they are already facing while they're doing their job. And in all this, we have seen a lot of debates on why healthcare workers are entitled to hazard pay, why other professions aren't receiving hazard pay. And all I can say that in addition to the real risk that they face that would justify some extra remuneration, I would like to add that It's already in the law. You can check RA 7305. Although it has been there since March 26, 1992, not all healthcare workers, unfortunately, get the hazard pay that they rightfully deserve as provided by the law. So, Section 20 of that said law talks about additional compensation, stating that public healthcare workers should receive the following allowances. So we have hazard pay, subsistence allowance, longevity pay, laundry allowance, and remote assignment allowance. And it was also stated there who should receive hazard pay. It was very specific. And then it was also specified there how much should a healthcare worker receive. It was said that if you're a healthcare worker with a salary grade of 19 and below, you can receive at least 25% of your monthly basic salary as your hazard pay. And if you have a salary grade of 20 and above, I guess it has a range that they should follow depending on your exposure to certain diseases. So these are the figures stated in the law. No more, no less. No less, okay? So yeah. So also, if you're about to take the board exam, a new employee, or already working as a public health worker, or just a concerned citizen, and I just want to say that it is important that you know your rights and benefits, and it is just right to demand and fight for it. Well, I initially wanted to talk about the hazard pay alone, but since we're already talking about the Magna Carta, so I'm just gonna mention the rest. Included in the law is that there should be no understaffing or overloading of public health workers, and then the normal hours of work shall not exceed 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week. And if overtime work is needed, the workers shall be paid an additional compensation. And also, every public health worker shall be paid a night shift differential of 10% of his or her regular wage for each hour of work. And also, if there are any injuries, there should be compensation. The law already laid it out for us, and it is good to check from time to time if our government is really following this, or if there are any breaches or like violations. It's actually, just thinking about it, it's just sad that you need to keep an eye on your government if it's following the laws that it makes. But again, it always boils down to election, as I have discussed earlier. It is the day wherein we choose the people we see fit to manage our resources and to respond to society's problems and struggles, let alone follow the law. But the ultimate decision will always be made by us, the people, and not by just some picos or just some machine. I just want to put this information out there because it took me a whole nursing course to be aware of these things. And it just really made me sad how uninformed the masses are about their rights, their service providers' entitlements, and their government's responsibility. Sometimes, I blame the education system here in the Philippines, because why are our rights not taught while we are still, learning in high school or elementary, or, first aid should be taught to everyone, CPR and things like that. It's just, things that I think about from time to time. I guess one thing that should be also criticized in our country is our education system, Yeah, we're advanced when it comes to mathematics, chemistry, but chemistry and math and other subjects may matter, but these aren't the only subjects that is crucial in, in living. Because, we had this subject when we were in college, we were taught about, how the government works. But the thing that I just realized is that, why just now? Why wasn't this taught to us when we were in high school? Because, to be honest, not everyone, gets a college degree here in the Philippines. So, to have better and wiser and more informed citizens, I guess we should teach these things while everyone is still, at school. But yeah, these are just things that I think about from time to time, and I guess I've said everything that was in my mind already. So always remember to never stop learning, live responsibly and with a conscience, and always treat others with compassion. So yeah, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and see you guys on the next vlog.